Thank you for joining us today. We're going to be talking about state procurement methodology with Rachel Doherty from the state of Minnesota. Rachel, thank you for joining us today. Certainly an important topic and very timely with a lot of the issues that are going on now. And I know Minnesota has, like many states, used traditional procurement methodologies of issuing RFPs, having a quiet period, limited discussions with vendors and so forth, and detailed responses that vendors propose. What made you all take a look at alternative approaches to this traditional method?
Scott, it was really, we were trying to meet our partner needs. And it was the Minnesota Department of Transportation who came to us with some frustrations with the traditional procurement process. And they had some pain points and explained how it wasn't working for them. And we listened, and there was a lot of things that they wanted. And one of them, the highlights really was they wanted to have more dialogue with vendors and, less exchanging of paper, like back and forth in that formal, rigid process, and something that was a little more agile and allowed them to bring in emerging technology. And what was interesting about the conversation is they had some really great ideas, but they needed a framework to put around that. So we used our existing procurement statutes to put a framework around selecting those vendors while also increasing the amount of dialogue, the back and forth, and really ushering in like new ideas and innovation through the procurement process.
And so what did you settle on? What was the approach then that you decided to take?
Well, one of the things that MnDOT was trying to do is they were trying to bring connected and automated vehicle technology into the state of Minnesota. And when people think of connected and automated vehicle technology, they think of self-driving Teslas usually, but it really is actually quite a lot more than that. It's things like having snowplows and ambulances that have the ability to communicate with the traffic light system. And they found that the way technology was moving, by the time they would get a request for proposal like put out, takes quite a long time to develop it. And then there's, it's publicized, then they select a vendor. And, by that time, sometimes the technology is already sort of passed and we're at a different point. So they wanted something to harness that rapidly emerging technology. So they wanted something that was open continuously. So when a vendor was ready to submit, they could submit their proposal. So that was something that was new and interesting about it. Another thing that they wanted is because it was continuously open, they wanted it to be open to a wide variety of connected and automated vehicle solutions. So they, instead of just having a rigid list of requirements, they had some broad goals that they wanted to meet. And they asked the vendors to come forward and help them solve problems. Like when you think about the state of Minnesota, we are known for our cold winters and lots of snow. So they wanted technology that would help us address those needs in the winter. And also we want to know what will work in the winter because not everything, if it works in Florida, it does not necessarily mean it will stand up in a cold Minnesota winter. So it was really just about being open. And there's a lot of things that are open about it. It's open continuously. And it also, we don't have that rigid list of requirements. So we're inviting vendors in to tell us what the solution might be.
And these are the challenge-based RFPs?
That's what we call it. We call it a challenge-based RFP. And interestingly enough, when I was submitting this project with Minnesota Department of Transportation for an award, and I started to Google what we were doing, and MnDOT had named it the Connected and Automated Vehicle Challenge. And it turns out that what we were doing is actually considered a challenge-based RFP. So we're, kind of putting a challenge out there to vendors, like, this is what we're trying to do. Can you rise to the challenge and help us, achieve these great things?
And you found there to be quite a few benefits and advantages to that approach.
Definitely. I mean, there's things that come through the door that you don't even really, you're not anticipating it. One of the things that we procured was, it's called an automated crash truck, and they place them in work zones to protect the workers in the zone from an errant vehicle entering. And it's one of the more dangerous jobs in the work zone to drive this. And we purchased an automated one. And we were the only second state in the nation to purchase one of those. I believe Colorado is the other country or other state that has one. So things like that come to light. And then, there's other things that sound a little more traditional, like we are having a broadband feasibility study. And that's something that will benefit the state in a lot of different ways, but it's particularly important for connected and automated vehicles because I believe a connected and automated vehicle could consume, I think, 4,000 times the data that you and I could in a given day. So we're going to need more broadband infrastructure if this is a future. So that's something that's maybe more traditional, like government. So that's, you really usher in a wide variety of solutions that are that provide benefits.
Oh, that's great. Well, how do you see this applying in the health and human services space, Rachel? There's certainly no shortage of issues that confront states in health and human services programs and issues ranging all the way from housing insecurity, homelessness, food needs, etc. How do you see this playing out in the HHS space?
Well, I think what's interesting in the HHS space is there's all kinds of challenges, and we know generally what those challenges are. And this is an opportunity to say government doesn't necessarily have all the answers, but we want to work with you, our partners out there, to develop solutions that meet the needs of people. And the needs of people are really complex, which I think really invites in an opportunity for innovation, an opportunity for, government might be saying, hey, we don't have all the answers, but we're also saying we want to work with you, we want to partner with you, and we want to meet the needs of people. And that's where I think this has a lot of potential, is just the complexities of the HHS area and, working with other partners to rise to those challenges.
Great. What advice or lessons learned would you impart to other state agencies as they take a look at alternative approaches from what you've learned?
Well, one thing I would say is be open. Keep an open mind. Keeping an open mind has ultimately led to this great partnership between us and the Minnesota Department of Transportation. I went to that first meeting and I was a little bit scared. I was scared they were going to ask me to change a statute, and we don't like to do that. We don't want every individual agency to have their own procurement rules. But I listened, and I really tried to meet them where they were at. And then it turned out that they were really happy to have the framework that procurement provided. So I think if you can go into it with an open mind and listen and, be prepared to say yes, that makes a real difference. So I guess if that's one piece of advice I'd have is to be open-minded and listen and work with your partners. And, procurement can add a lot of value, I think, but in order to add value, you really do have to kind of take a step back and, see what we can do differently that helps us operate in this, a changing environment constantly.
So you'd recommend this approach to others?
Yes, I would. And, there's a lot of benefits to it. I think one of the biggest things is the vendor dialogue. We're not just trading paper back and forth. It's not this cold, rigid process that is really like rooted in another area or another era. It feels like it is, this is more agile and it's more flexible. And, I feel like it's not just a vendor agency relationship, it's a partnership. And, both parties have a shared interest in accomplishing these goals. And in addition to that, I feel like some of the partnerships that grow from this can, outlast the, actual dollars. So it's, if you're bringing in other jurisdictions, whether it be county and local government, working alongside the vendor and the state, it's a real opportunity to have those working relationships last much longer and overall providing better services to the people that we serve.
Great. Sounds like a pretty compelling case. Thank you very much for taking the time today, Rachel, for sharing your perspectives on alternative approaches to state procurement methodologies. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.